Hi, my name is Pastor Russell Mullenberg, and this is Eat This Word, a weekly program where I serve up bite-sized bits of Bible. Bible verse I'd like to look at with you today comes from Mark chapter 10, verse 45. This is Jesus speaking. He says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Here at the beginning, few months of 2022, we're looking at the question, who is this man? Who is Jesus? And this verse is one of the central verses in Scripture for helping to define Jesus' mission, for describing why he came and what he was going to accomplish. I remember when I was in a Bible class in college, and I was introduced to this verse as a thesis statement or a purpose statement for the Gospel of Mark. This is one of those verses which really encapsulates Jesus' view of his reason for coming to earth and his purpose. And so when you talk about the Gospel of Mark and really what the Gospel of Mark is about, you can look at this verse as a sort of summary statement of what Jesus came to do and accomplish and what Mark wants us to know about Jesus. So we're going to look at it this week, the first half of the verse. We'll look at the second half next week, and a third week we'll come back and we'll sort of look at the bigger picture, the context in which this verse appears. So first, the first half of the verse, and this title that Jesus chooses for himself. He describes himself as the Son of Man. This is actually one of Jesus' favorite ways of referring to himself. You're probably aware that within Scripture there are a lot of titles, a lot of names given to Jesus, and Jesus often refers to himself as the Son of Man. And it's actually one of it's a title that says a lot about him. We'll look at that in just a moment, but it doesn't sound like much. In a lot of ways, it sounds like Jesus is saying, I'm just a guy like the rest of you. I'm just a human. That maybe Jesus is emphasizing his connection to Mary, his mother, his humanity, and all of that is important, of course, because we believe that while Jesus is the Son of God, he is also a son of Mary, a son of man, a human in that sense. But there's more going on with that title than maybe just appears when we read it casually as we're reading through the Gospel of Mark. And the reason for that is it goes back to a prophecy from the latter part of the Old Testament that really had struck the imagination of the Israelites and what they were looking for and expecting in terms of a hero, a redeemer, a Messiah to come. And so that passage is in Daniel chapter 7. And this vision, this apocalyptic vision that Daniel is having, where he sees God seated on a throne. And this is what he says. He says, "In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. And he approached the Ancient of Days, and he was led into his presence. And he was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. And all nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed." So you see the phrase there, of course, one like a son of man, this figure to come that will approach the Ancient of Days. That's God seated on his throne, and all of these glorious things that are said about him, the authority, the power, the dominion that he's going to receive. I want you to note the phrase as well, coming with the clouds of heaven. This approach of this almost superhero-like. In a lot of ways, I think the people of Israel had almost a comic book expectation of what this hero would be like. Now, why is that important? Again, Jesus uses this title, Son of Man, and you say, well, is he really referring to this? Well, I think he is, and there's evidence in Matthew chapter 26. Jesus is on trial for his life. He's standing before the high priest, the Sanhedrin, the Jewish council, and they're trying to get answers out of him, and Jesus doesn't say much. He doesn't respond to their accusations, and finally the high priest stands up and he says to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What's this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" And Jesus remained silent. And the high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." And here's how Jesus chooses to answer. He says, "You've said so." Right? You call me the Messiah. Well, that's your choice, he says. "But I say to you, From now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. There's no doubt now Jesus is referring back to that prophecy in Daniel, that title, that expectation of a Son of Man. He's kind of claiming that for himself, that the approach coming on the clouds of heaven. And did the high priest understand that's what he's saying? Well, the next verse, then the high priest tore his clothes and he said, "You've spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy." So you can see when Jesus uses this title in Mark chapter 10, he's definitely referring to this prophecy in Daniel. He's claiming for himself this. They don't agree. They don't see him as this superhero, but that is what Jesus is claiming for himself. So we go back to Mark 10. And we see that when Jesus talks about who he is, it's this person with a power and authority. But now notice what he says. The Son of Man, I did not come to be served. Jesus, who claims for himself this right to be at the right hand of the Ancient of Days and to command nations. He says, I didn't come to be served. I didn't come to receive your service or your honor and your glory. Not specifically. I didn't come to demand your worship, but rather, he says, to serve. So think about who Jesus was and what he deserves. Go back to the Daniel prophecy. And just notice some of these claims here. He's got authority and glory and sovereign power. People of every language worship him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. His kingdom is one that will not be destroyed. If anybody deserves to be served, it is the one who is the Son of Man. And yet we go back to Mark 10 and he says, no, that's not why I came. I came to serve. I came to use my power. I came to use my authority to bless others, to bless you. And this verse, which Jesus sort of sees as his mission statement, his purpose statement, the one that identifies who he is in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus identifies first and foremost as a servant, as one who came to benefit us. And the good news of this passage, of course, then, is that the message of Jesus Christ is not one where he's looking for us to come and labor for him. He's not coming for us to scratch his back. The gospel, as a friend of mine likes to say, the gospel is not a help wanted sign. The gospel is not a recruitment poster looking for us to come join the army of God. Rather, the gospel is a help available sign. That Jesus has come to help us, to serve us, to do for us what we could not do for ourselves. And so as we talk about who is this man, who is Jesus, know first and foremost that he's one who's come to serve you. Thanks for watching. Eat This Word is a ministry that's supported by gifts and donations from people like you who watch and share our videos with others. If you'd like more information, you can visit our website, eatthisword.com, or you can go to our Patreon page where there's an easy link for sharing gifts and donations. Thanks and have a great week.